Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I thought I would share another sewing project. I'm actually filming this at the beginning of September. It's September now, I think. But I'm not going to put this up for a few months until after Christmas because it is a Christmas present. So here it is. You can see. It's a teeny tiny little shirt. It is a polo shirt for my nephew who will be 18 months old at Christmas time. So it's a present for him. So I'm going to post this after Christmas. So I use this super cute lion fabric, which is a jersey fabric that I got from Jelly Fabrics, I think it's called. And ordering through them was pretty simple, and the fabric is super cute. And it feels very soft on the inside and the outside. And sewing it with it was reasonably easy. I did struggle a bit because I still find jersey fabrics and knit fabrics just to be a lot harder than woven fabrics. I have got myself a walking foot, which I read helps, and I couldn't really tell if it helped or not. The other thing was that the collar and the pocket were woven fabrics. So I just used some fabric I already had, which is this blue chambray fabric that I got a while back from Minerva Crafts, which is generally really easy to sew and I have no problems with that. But then I wasn't sure whether or not that would really work very well with the walking foot. I was also having some problems with my sewing machine back stitching, and I couldn't really figure out what the problem was, but it didn't seem to want to back stitch over the jersey fabrics with or without the walking foot. With the walking foot, apparently you can't back stitch, it says in the instructions, and it just wouldn't do it for me anyway. But even when I changed the foot back to the regular foot, it still was struggling to back stitch. So I was having that problem a little bit when I was sewing this, which was a bit annoying. And the pattern it's a polo shirt, and the pattern is called the Parachute Top by Oliver and S. Totally blanked on that name. And I had my eye on it for a while and it just looked super cute, and it comes in a few different sizes, so it goes up to age 4 I think, so I could feasibly make this for him again in a little while. And it also comes with a pattern for sweatpants, so I could also make him some sweatpants. It was a bit more challenging than some of the other patterns that I've used. The collar and this should be a button placket, but I've decided to leave it without buttons because buttons are quite hard, button holes are quite hard, to do them neatly is quite difficult, and I just think it looks quite cute the way that it is, and it looks neat enough, I think, the way that it is. I don't think adding buttons will improve the neatness, definitely not. And he is only going to be 18 months old, so he won't really be able to do the buttons himself, and it'll just be easier to get it on and off, so it's just more convenient for me not to put them on, and I just don't think it will have a big impact on the top. It's got the little patch pocket, which was fairly simple, but the first time I did it, it was completely wonky, and I don't quite know how I managed to do that. It was just wonky on all the different sides, so I had to take it off and put a new one on, and it looks, I think, really, really cute. It also has a kind of a split hem. I don't know if you can see on the camera. So the front is a little bit shorter than the back, and I quite like that idea, but doing it was a bit fiddly, and so I find the collar, the button placket and the hem, they're not as neat as I would have liked them to be. It was my first time making this pattern, and so I'm not too upset about it. Obviously we're still able to give it as a little gift, and I think it will hold up fine for a toddler to wear it. But it's just a bit of a shame. I found the instructions not super clear on these bits. I found the written instructions really difficult to understand. I was going mostly by the pictures, which for the most part were okay to follow, but sometimes I was really struggling just to know what they actually want me to do with some of these elements that I'm not used to sewing. So I think if I made it again, I would be able to do it more easily, understand better what they were actually after, and then therefore be able to do it more neatly. But because I just was really struggling to understand what the hell they were going on about, it was quite difficult to do it neatly, because I was sewing it and then going, hang on, is that right? Is that wrong? What? So that was a bit frustrating. I think because I've been using these like beginner patterns, and I've been using a lot of Tilly and the Buttons patterns who have really good instructions and lots of colour photographs, to move on to something slightly more complicated that had less good instructions was a bit frustrating. It's presumably an American company because all the measurements were in inches, and I know in the UK we still do use a lot of inches, but we also use centimetres, and we're in some weird halfway house where with sewing you kind of end up using both. Or like it ends up being a bit weird. Like you'll have a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but it'll tell you to cut, 100 centimetres of fabric or whatever, and it's a bit all over the place. So I get that that's kind of confusing, but I struggled with the inches a little bit because the seam allowances were all like 1/4 of an inch, which is very small, which again makes it just a little bit more fiddly and a bit harder to get neat, I find anyway, or I found. And then it was telling me things like my stitch length should be 1/16 of an inch or something, and I don't know how you measure that on a sewing machine that only has numbers that go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Similarly with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, my sewing machine does show where 1/4 of an inch is, but it's really hard to see because it's like so where it's written on is like behind the needle, so you can't really see it when you're sewing. So little things like this, I just found it a bit more of a fiddly, awkward pattern to use, which is a bit of a shame. I got the PDF version. I've got a few PDF versions recently because they are a bit cheaper and they're just quicker and easier to get hold of. I have a printer at home, so I just print out the pattern pieces, and that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem doing that. Had a slight problem getting them to print out at 100%. They all seem to want to print out at about 90-95%, and I couldn't figure out. I kind of ended up, I managed it in the end, but it was a bit funny. But apart from that, that was fine. I think my problem with the PDF is that I was using the instructions that were just on my computer instead of having like a printed out booklet. And I didn't want to print them all out because that just seemed like a waste of paper. But reading it off my computer whilst I was trying to sew was a bit awkward, and they're sort of weird PDFs that if you kind of have to zoom in and then you have to like move it around the page to find where you want to be, and then I kept accidentally going on to the next page without meaning to, because if you move too far to the right it puts you on the next page and things like this. So with the PDF it was absolutely fine apart from reading the instructions, and it's just not as easy using online or a computer version, electronic version, than using an actual physical paper copy of the instructions. And that's all. So I am pleased with the finished product. I think it looks really cute, mainly because it's just tiny and it has really cute fabric and it has a cute tiny pocket. It's not as neat as I would have liked it, but like I said, I can print out another size of the pattern and make it again when he's a little bit older, and just keep reusing it. And I've also got the sweatpants pattern as well, which I didn't use, so I could use that later on at a later date. But yeah, it was a little bit harder to work with this pattern than some of the other patterns that I've used previously, but I did get to have a go at some more complicated techniques like the collar and the button placket and the split hem, so it was a good experience. That's all for the video. I hope you liked it. If you have liked the video and if you like the tiny little shirt, please give me a like. If you'd like to see more of these sewing videos and the other videos I do, please subscribe. And if you have any thoughts, or if you've tried this pattern yourself and you have any tips or any feedback, just leave a comment in the comments below.